You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Feel like who Art Ed?
We'll try to spice it.
Who Art is Mr. Wood, Art Ed me.
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted, weekly art history for all ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood, and today I want to look at Gustav Klimt and The Kiss. Born into a working-class family in 1862, Klimt was the second son among 7 children. His father, Ernst Klimt, was a skilled gold engraver, a profession that likely instilled in the young Klimt an appreciation for intricate detail and craftsmanship. His mother, Anna, harbored an unfulfilled ambition to pursue a musical career, and this passion for creativity likely influenced her son's early artistic inclinations. Alongside his 2 brothers, Ernst and George, Klimt displayed a natural talent for drawing, suggesting a familial predisposition for artistic pursuits. Growing up in an artistic household, Gustav and his brother Ernst got a sort of free apprenticeship before they would be trained in the academy. A pivotal moment in Klimt's life came at the age of 14 when he was awarded a scholarship to attend the Vienna School of Arts and Crafts. This provided him with traditional training in various artistic disciplines, including painting, drawing, and sculpture. Klimt excelled in his studies, demonstrating a precocious talent and a dedication to his craft that would serve him well in his future endeavors. While attending the Vienna School of Arts and Crafts, Klimt also experienced personal loss and hardship. In 1874, his younger sister Anna died at just the age of 5, and shortly after that, his other sister Clara had a mental breakdown. This undoubtedly had a huge emotional impact on the young artist. Some years later, in 1892, both his father and brother Ernst would pass away unexpectedly. All of this, no doubt, contributed to this sort of strain of melancholy that underpins a lot of his later works. In his early career, though, Klimt gained recognition for decorative murals in public buildings, showcasing a technical mastery that reflected the prevalent academic style of the time. I think it's important to note that in the 19th century, mural artists were considered more craftsmen and not fine artists. The art world was very hierarchical, and while Klimt was earning a decent wage and getting some attention for his murals, this type of work was not as revered as pieces on canvas. But Klimt's artistic path took a significant turn in 1897 when he co-founded the Vienna Secession, a collective of artists who sought to break free from the constraints of traditional art. The Vienna Secession sought to combine art, craft, and architecture all in one. They broke from the traditional hierarchy, saying that each age must have its own art, and art must have freedom. This pivotal moment marked a transition in his style as he began to embrace symbolism, decorative elements, and an exploration of the human psyche. I think it's worth noting that the 1890s was the same time Freud began developing and publishing his theories that would drastically alter people's perceptions of the human mind. And then also for an art history timeline, for a long time the Western tradition of art was all about capturing reality as accurately as possible. The more accurate and lifelike the image, the better the artist. In the mid-19th century, we saw the pre-Raphaelites making very polished and in some ways very realistic-looking works, but they were fantasy pieces, sort of rejecting modernity to harken back to a simpler day or an idealized version of some bygone era. Then we saw the Impressionists capturing their impressions of fleeting moments. Klimt and the Secessionists were aware of these movements, and they saw the world around them drastically changing as new buildings sprang up, new innovations were happening in science, and the artists explored new ideas of what art could be. The Secession's exhibition, held in their own purpose-built gallery, showcased the work of its members and other international artists. Klimt's contributions to these exhibitions were often met with both acclaim and some controversy as his work challenged societal norms and pushed the boundaries of artistic convention. He served as the group's first president, and his artistic vision really influenced its direction. His paintings, with their bold colors, intricate patterns, and symbolist themes, epitomized the secessionist aesthetic. One of Klimt's most famous works associated with the secession is the Beethoven Frieze, a monumental mural created in 1902 for the group's 14th exhibition. It was an allegorical work inspired by Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and it explores themes of love, loss, and the human quest for happiness. Klimt's association with the Vienna secession lasted until 1905, when he and a group of like-minded artists left the group due to internal disagreements. Still, his involvement with the secession had a lasting impact on his career, solidifying his reputation as a leading figure in the Art Nouveau movement and paving the way for his iconic Golden Phase. Now, the Golden Phase, like 1907, 1908, that was the pinnacle of Klimt's career. This is when he created some of his most iconic works. Paintings like The Kiss and Portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer are characterized by their lavish use of gold leaf and intricate patterns. There's a grandeur to the pieces, and not only in scale, but like the shimmering gold just overwhelming and enveloping these flat figures created an opulent but also almost mystical atmosphere. Klimt's visit to Ravenna, Italy in 1903, where he saw the Byzantine mosaics of San Vitale, profoundly influenced his artistic vision. The mosaics' shimmering gold surfaces and stylized figures inspired him to incorporate these elements into his own work. Like so many of the other avant-garde Western artists of the mid to late 19th century, he was also influenced by Japanese woodblock prints, which he collected and studied. The flatness and decorative patterns of Japanese art resonated with his evolving aesthetic. The Golden Phase paintings are also just imbued with symbolism, often exploring themes of love, fertility, cycles of life and death. The female figure is a central motif, often depicted as an alluring presence. The works have a deliberate sort of flatness, rejecting that illusion of depth and volume from traditional Western painting. This emphasis on the surface of the canvas and the decorative aspects of the work aligns with the broader Art Nouveau aesthetic that was popular at the time. He prioritized the emotional and the just visual impact of the work over accurate representation. Many contemporary artists focused on narrative or storytelling, but Klimt's work prioritized the decorative and ornamental aspects of painting. Klimt's artistic interests and stylistic preferences evolved. In his later work, he brought in elements of Fauvism and Expressionism. The Golden Phase really ended around 1908, but it remains a pivotal and celebrated period in his career, solidifying his reputation as a visionary artist and a pioneer of Art Nouveau. Now, throughout his career, Klimt remained a complex and enigmatic figure. His personal life was marked by numerous relationships, but also a preference for privacy. He said if you want to know about him, look at his paintings. He never married and lived with his mother and two sisters until he died, but he fathered several children, and his private affairs often intertwined with his artistic inspirations. He was also said to be a huge pet parent. The man loved cats, and some say he may have actually used cat urine as a fixative in some of his works, although he might have just been joking, playing up that reputation of the cat obsessive. His paintings that merged, quote, fine art and craft with beauty and symbolism stand as a testament to his creative genius and enduring impact on the art world. Now, after a short break, I want to look more closely at his most famous painting, The Kiss. Gustav Klimt's The Kiss stands as an iconic masterpiece of the Art Nouveau movement, captivating audiences with its shimmering gold leaf, intricate patterns, and a passionate embrace. Now, right off the bat, the first thing people notice is the gold in this work. I mean, it's called Klimt's golden period for a reason. He covered the canvas in gold leaf, then a wash of oil over the top of that, and flecks of gold paint over the top, creating this sort of otherworldly atmosphere. The dark wash of paint creates a contrast that makes the pure gold shine all the brighter, and it has a feel of a night sky with stars surrounding these figures. You might say they're almost transported out into the cosmos, transcending the earthly bounds. And I think this transcendent quality is largely the point. As I talked about before, Klimt had been influenced by a number of different art movements. One of the things that really stuck with him was the Byzantine mosaics he had seen in Ravenna, and I think it's important to understand that early Christian style. A lot of people look at that work with the somewhat awkward-looking flattened images and see it as bad art, but really the flatness was the point. These works were meant to be truly iconic, and by that I mean they were meant to be icons or symbols of figures rather than trying to recreate actual people. This is in part due to the notion that creating humans was God's domain and art was to be doing something else, illuminating ideas that would bring people closer to God and truth. Gold shows an enduring value as it's highly resistant to tarnish, so putting gold into these works was sort of showing how valuable and how important they were, that they were to be held up for all of time. So in works like The Kiss, we see Klimt trying to explore ideas and emotions that go beyond the individuals or just a kiss. Along those lines, I think it was a brilliant choice to remove clothing, as fashion would tie it to a specific time and place. Instead, he wraps them in abstracted, patterned sort of cloaks. The male figure is covered in rectangular shapes, whereas the female is covered in more organic shapes and wavy lines. Now, the obvious question is, who exactly are these figures? We really don't know. Klimt was not big on explaining his paintings and never stated who the couple was. Many see The Kiss as a mythological portrait of Apollo and Daphne. The short version of that story is that it was love at first sight for Apollo as he saw Daphne out in the woods, but she wanted to be left alone and never marry, so she ran away. Apollo wouldn't take no for an answer and kept pursuing her until she was cornered and called out to her father, Peneus, the river god, to make her ugly so that she could be left alone. And then she turned into a tree, but apparently even that was not clear enough for Apollo, who felt her heartbeat and kissed the tree, then decided he would wear the leaves in his hair and cut off the branches to make himself a bow. For me, that interpretation really takes all the romance out of this picture, as Apollo has real, if I can't have her, no one can sort of vibes. As we look at the painting, although we can't see the man's face, we do see a leafy crown in his head. We see a crown of flowers in hers. Both of these would be indications of pagan subjects. Then we look at her pose. She seems to be sort of collapsing. I mean, he's clearly firmly standing, leaning into her, but her face is turned, and it feels like a valid interpretation that she's turning away, resisting his advances, or maybe just tired and giving up and accepting it. We can't see the bend at the knee, but the feet are out behind her, indicating that she's on her knees, and her feet are kind of hanging over the edge of the ground, making her position feel a little bit more precarious. Of course, that's just one interpretation. Some see the figures as representations of Klimt himself and his longtime companion, Emilie Floge. She was a fashion designer, and her sister Helene had married Klimt's brother Ernst. When Ernst died, Gustav was made Helene's guardian, and Klimt became close with the Floge family, spending summers with them in Lake Attersee. He painted several portraits of Emilia, and the two of them both served the same wealthy women of Vienna's high society. Klimt would paint their portraits, and she would sell them couture dresses. Her pieces were patterned with a loose flowing silhouette. It was known as the Reformed style, as a backlash against the restrictive Victorian trends. Gustav and Emilia were extremely close, both professionally and personally, for the rest of his life. In fact, in 1918, when Klimt suffered a fatal stroke, his last words were, "Emilia must come." There's something I find really beautiful about this idea that The Kiss, his most famous work, might be a representation of his undying love for his longtime companion, Emilia. Although many would point out that the woman in the painting looks a little bit more like another model he frequently painted, a woman who was known as Hilda the Red. Personally, I'm inclined to see this as a more allegorical work and not really intended to capture any specific individuals so much as a feeling experienced by so many. It's simultaneously just like jaw-droppingly beautiful and super awkward. As I said, the woman is in this sort of precarious position, but perhaps she's just so overwhelmed in this rapturous embrace that she's melting into her partner in this kiss. We see her hand gently wrapped around his, and her right hand going up around his neck, but not gripping so much as her fingers curl like she's lightly touching his neck where it meets his shoulder. Honestly, it's hard to say exactly what she's touching, as his head is so close to the top of the canvas. He leans over in a pose that creates this weird bit of foreshortening to the blobby bit of torso peeking out from that golden cloak. I think it resonates with people because it captures a deep and universal truth about relationships. They can be beautiful, but also a bit awkward, and there's a cringe to looking at them from the outside. And from the outside, we can all speculate about the feelings and intentions, but our speculation is based on our own life experiences projected onto the scene. The truth is only known by those inside that relationship. And I think there's something nice about the way that Klimt provides us that space to speculate. He leaves it a little bit open to interpretation. The painting is loaded with symbolism, both overt and subtle. But again, there's this ambiguity. The intricate patterns on the couple's garments could symbolize the interconnectedness of the lovers and the natural world. The floral motifs may allude to fertility and the cycle of life. Gold creates a sort of halo, giving the work a sort of spiritual dimension, like he's creating a new mythology, sanctifying this love. Of course, it also could just be said that these are decorative elements that make it more aesthetically pleasing. I think the real key to the piece is that it doesn't need all that interpretation. Like a lot of great art, there are layers and illusions that seem to reward the viewer who takes time to do closer inspection and that deep dive. But even without all that, people feel an instant connection to it because it just looks good. It gets people at a gut level before they do any sort of heady analysis. And we can enjoy the intricate patterns meticulously rendered, showcasing Klimt's attention to detail and his ability to blend decorative elements with figurative representation. The painting's square format's a characteristic of Klimt's work, depicting couples, reinforcing that sense of balance and harmony between the figures. We see a balance with the geometric patterns covering the man and the more round organic shapes on the woman, serving as a sort of yin and yang or harmonious balance between opposites. And I think that sense of balance in the square composition just, again, makes it visually satisfying. When it was unveiled, The Kiss received a mixed reception. Some critics praised its beauty and emotional intensity, but others found the intense passion to be just too much, and they didn't know what to make of the style. The painting challenged the prevailing conservative norms of the time, sparking debate and controversy. Despite that controversy, though, the painting sold immediately. It sold for 25,000 crowns, which would be the equivalent of about $240,000 today. That was 5 times higher than the price paid for any painting in Vienna up until that time. And yet, it appears to be a bargain. In 2006, another one of Klimt's paintings from that golden phase sold for $135 million. While The Kiss hasn't gone up for auction, it seems safe to assume it is worth far more than that initial sale price, as it quickly became one of his most celebrated works, extremely popular beyond just the fine art world. The Kiss has permeated popular culture, appearing in countless reproductions, adaptations, and homages. The image has been used in advertising, fashion, even recreated in movies, like when Leonardo DiCaprio and Michelle Williams appeared to embody the composition for a moment during the Scorsese film Shutter Island. I think the painting's enduring appeal lies in its ability to evoke a range of emotions. People look at it and they see passion, tenderness, but also a vulnerability. While Klimt said, "To each age its art and to art its freedom," The Kiss is one of those rare works that seems to fit into any age. It's truly timeless because themes of love and connection are universal and will resonate with viewers across cultures and generations. This concludes this week's episode of Who Arted, part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you found this tolerable, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. You can find images of the work being discussed this week and every week on social media at Who Arted Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course on the website whoartedpodcast.com. Podcast done.